Sal, thank you for talking with us today.
Thanks for coming over.
And I know you've been interviewed by a lot of people, a lot of organizations, CNN and PBS and the Palo Alto Weekly. And so
but none of them compare.
Well,
no.
We'll see. That's my goal. My goal is to come up with questions that are relevant to our community here and that are new.
Yeah.
So you started tutoring your cousin from a distance and then switched to video. They liked you better, right?
Yeah, they like me better on video than in person. Yes.
Nothing personal, but because of the mechanics.
Perhaps nothing personal, but yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have just a massive following, that you've got like 1 million.
We're now like 2.5 million unique students a month watching videos, and that's it's great. Like ask us next month, it'll be a different number. Hopefully, it'll be a larger number. But yeah, it's grown. It's like tenfold in the past year, so it's been just kind of on this exponential growth curve.
And then every day, how many people?
Every day, it's like 200,000 to 300,000 video views. So
yeah, and that's doubled too since earlier in the year.
Yes, so that's growing very quickly.
And you've made every single one of these videos.
As of today, if you go to the site, there's like 2,700 something videos. I have made all of them. Although there's like 20, I would say, give or take, that I'm starting to kind of have a conversation with other people.
So I would love to hear kind of about the new directions.
Yeah.
We're here in Mountain View in your office. You're no longer in the converted closet.
Yes, yes.
And you now, because you've got more people in your household, probably nice, you've got 2 children. So let's talk about what's sort of coming up.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of dimensions that we're working in right now. I mean, our core stuff is, the videos are what kind of brings people into the fold, and it's an easy way to experience Khan Academy. But most of the resources are on the software platform. And so we could talk a lot about that. But on the video side, you're right. We are experimenting. I'm continuing to do videos. We actually are going to bring on some full-time people to make videos in the humanities soon. We haven't formally announced that, so I'll keep you hanging on who they are and all the rest. And there's another person we're probably going to bring on that already has a bit of a YouTube following, and we're going to bring her on on the math side, and I'll also keep you hanging there. You can guess who that is. But yes, Dr. Mahadev and Stanford Medical Schools have been exploring. Stanford Medical School already does this thing where they record their lectures, and the med students can watch the lectures later. And what that happened is now if you go to a lecture at Stanford Medical School, there's like a professor at the board, and then there's like 5 people in the audience.
I actually had a conversation. No, I had a conversation with a medical school professor recently who said people don't come to class.
They don't come to class, so they contacted me and said, well, how do we take this to its natural conclusion? And it's like, yeah, let's do them in bite-sized nuggets. Let's make them so they're a little bit more conversational. And if they're going to be good for med students, why not just expose them to the world? So we're starting to experiment with Stanford Med School, and that's where the video with Dr. Mahadevan, and I've been doing a bunch. I was just there yesterday, and we've been experimenting with, if you have the expert, the head of ER or the head of endocrinology or whoever on the video, and if you have someone else, maybe it's me, maybe it's a med student or someone else who's kind of having a conversation with them, so you're still going over all of the material. You do it Khan Academy style. So you don't see the faces, you see the content, while we talk about the global burden of trauma and the third world and all the rest. I might be writing the notes, we might be looking at charts and diagrams together, and we just hear the conversation that we're having about it.
Well, speaking of which, it sounds like you toss it out to your followers on Twitter and Facebook.
We
150,000 of...
Yeah, we often know. Sometimes if we're like, well, we don't know what it is, it seems all right, well, we'll just put it out there. I mean, I kind of do that for the Stanford Med people because they're shocked that, like, when I say, let's not have a meeting, let's just record a video. And let's put it on Facebook, and let's see what people say. And like by the end of the meeting, we have like 500 people have given us feedback in one way, shape, or form. Yeah, real time. So it's like you can't beat that. So
I know you read the comments, on your YouTube post, but is that a major form of how you decide what to do, not do? How do you navigate?
It definitely goes into the mix. It's after a while, if I just happen to see a lot of comments where like, you haven't done hyperbolic functions yet, which I haven't done yet. I'm like, mental note, do hyperbolic functions when I get a chance. But it's a combination of that. It's a combination of where there's just kind of an obvious need. So now there is chemistry, but before when there wasn't chemistry, it was like, chemistry is a major class, and a lot of people have trouble with that. So I should do chemistry. And then a lot of it is just where I am. Do I have a week free? A week isn't enough to go deep into organic chemistry, but a week is enough that I could say, I could do a couple of videos that kind of fill in the calculus playlist a little bit more, a couple of videos that fill in some aspect that I've already touched on a little bit, or one topic in history or cosmology or whatever.
So it's like you've got the great outline and you're filling it in.
Yeah, and every now and then we go deep and we add a major chunk to it. So like, when I did organic chemistry or linear algebra, I was like, this is what I'm doing for the month. I'm just going to eat, breathe, and sleep linear algebra for this month. And then I just did a ton of videos in that frame of mind.
So is there anything that you don't understand? I mean, I was thinking that. Do you ever need to watch one of your videos because you don't understand it? Do you ever learn it by doing it? Or learn it by watching it?
Well, you know, what's interesting is, so I don't make a video until I feel like I really understand like really internally, not just kind of a superficial do the problem, but until I really internalize it. But with that said, sometimes you say I really internalize it, but as soon as you start going to the video in like minute 6 and I'm about to explain something, I'm like, wait, I don't really have a good reason for why A is B, and then I'm like, okay, redo this. I need to answer that question. So that happens.
So it's iterative.
It is iterative sometimes. It is true sometimes if I do a bunch of videos in a topic, and then I shift to another topic, and I come back and I want to do more videos in that original topic after 2 months. I do usually have to watch some videos, get my mind back in that, do some problems on my own, get re-steeped into the subject before I can keep going. But there are definitely subjects that I don't think I'll ever be able to do. I mean,
really? Like
well,
what?
French.
Well, maybe that's the challenge. Try one that you never thought you could do.
Well, yeah, I would have to learn French. There's just a high. But you know, within the maths and science, I would say, especially like a core undergraduate level, I'd like to think there isn't anything that I won't be able to tackle. And that's the fun of it. I get to kind of major in every topic that, you know, before when you go through college you have to pick one, but I don't have to.
Right. You're like gazillion majoring, not triple, whatever. So another project that I've heard about is with the Los Altos School District, and I actually ran into somebody who was with the Full Circle Fund and was learning to do videoing for the purpose of working with Khan Academy on this pilot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, last year, November, this is when we had just gotten our office space, and now we have another office space down the street. But we were like a 4-person organization. Los Altos School Board contacted us and said, hey, what would you do with a 5th grade class? We said we'd have everyone working at their own pace, and we'd want every moment of a teacher's time to be spent working as closely with kids as possible. We think we could take the lecture out of the classroom. We think we can give tools so that a teacher can have students master concepts before they move on, and give the teachers dashboards so that they have the data on the student, and they thought it was a good idea. So we literally started the pilot last November, and the results have been pretty powerful out of those 4 classes that are started the pilot. In particular, the 2 7th grade classes that started it, these were math classes that were called algebra readiness. These were students who were having trouble with mathematics. They were tracked into a slower track. On the assessment test before and after, we just saw a generalized shift towards proficiency. So I forget the exact numbers, but it was on the order of going into the year, 20-something% were proficient at grade level and none were advanced. That's why they were tracked into that class. At the end of 6 months, 40-something% were proficient or advanced, and I believe the number 6% became advanced, which means that they had actually leapfrogged ahead of kids who were not tracked into the slower math class.
So if you fast forward, I mean, you're going district-wide, like how do you envision that kind of scaling? Or is that even
so our goal, you know, we're like a 15-16 person organization right now. We are never going to be the people that try to implement Khan Academy in every school on the planet or every school in the country or the state. What we think these pilots are about is, one, we're still learning. We're still learning what the model is. Every week we do this. We're learning things from the teachers. We're adding features from the teachers. So our goal through this pilot is, one, try to understand what the model can be in for different types of teachers, for different age groups, for different types of demographics. We're doing it in Los Altos now, but we're starting pilots in Oakland. We're starting some pilots in San Jose. And we hope over the course of this year, we can do a few things. We prove the model in different ways. We learn what the model can be, what good practices are. We figure out good ways to help teachers kind of internalize or adopt this model. And then we take all that information, we provide it to the world. So right now, a teacher in Alaska right now could go on Khan Academy and use all the same tools that the teachers in Los Altos are doing. What we hope that we can give them in a year from now is, not only will they have the tools, but they'll have a framework that they can adopt, that they can look at videos from the Los Altos or the Oakland classroom, say, yeah, I could do that. And they could have best practices, and there's maybe some lesson plans and things like that.
A bigger framework.
Yeah.
So how would it work, anything for teachers? I mean, there's the teachers teaching, but then it's how to teach.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you doing any of that?
I guess there is some instruction component too, but we're we're not. I mean, I'll tell you my advice to anyone who, teachers or not teachers, or parents, or I mean, my general gut sense is know the subject matter really, really well, and don't talk down to people, and have a conversational tone, and yeah, talk with the person instead of at them, and and don't be afraid to make mistakes in front of the student, as long as you're honest about them, and all the rest. And I think if you do all of those things, you just have a more fertile environment for someone to open their mind to learning from you. And that's kind of been, I think, the experience with the Khan Academy.
What about being here? Is there anything about being here in Silicon Valley, Mountain View, Palo Alto area that has kind of shaped what you're doing, do you think?
I tell everyone, I actually think it's been a big deal. Anywhere, even in I remember in our old condominium, which was in Palo Alto, when people would come over, this was in like 2006, I was like, hey, I'm working on this thing, I'm going to record videos on every possible topic, and people kind of give you looks, right? But they didn't think I was as crazy in Palo Alto as they would have if I was in London, or if I was in, there is a certain
even
level,
Boston, maybe not.
Or even, this place right here, there's something unique about it. There's just a general optimism where, and that optimism was maybe even with me. And when I started this, I didn't think it was going to be like this organization and there'd be other people, but there was just a general optimism that it was worth doing, that it wasn't like that, hey, if I have some cycles and I can do this thing, why not do it? Like, what's the harm? It's clearly going to help my cousins and maybe some other people, so what's the harm? And it seems like a very simple idea, but it's amazing how many other places in the world that just the overarching pessimism, and it just will stop people from doing that type of thing. So I think just getting started, that was I mean, I joke about this, but I think the weather actually helps too. When humidity kills optimism, and I know that because I grew up in New Orleans. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But But yeah, it's an optimistic place, and then once the organization started to get legs, I think it's no coincidence that people here noticed it, that it was tech entrepreneurs, even though they're not going to make any money off of us, we're not for profit. They're the ones that saw the potential. They're the ones that saw the potential for scale. They're the ones that, it's like one of those things. People's gut reaction to say, hey, do you think one or a small group of people doing stuff on YouTube and using some web apps, do you think they can change the world? And I'm not sure if we can. I don't want to make any grand statements. Maybe. In the rest of the world, before people even think about what's actually happening, they'll say, no, it's impossible, right? People here will actually they'll go through the thought experiment of whether that can happen. And they'll usually err on the side of dreaming big, and then maybe it doesn't happen. But so I think that it's no coincidence that most of our supporters come from the tech world, and especially Silicon Valley.
Is there anything that you wish people knew? Like, I don't know what that is. You're studying everything, I'm going to let you have a wild card.
I think there's a couple of things I hope people know. Is one, we don't view this, sometimes when people hear about videos on demand and these exercises and computer-based learning, there's a knee-jerk reaction that says, oh my God, this is about automating the classroom, this is about replacing teachers, or this is, stuff like that, or this is about kind of drill and kill and all of that. And the one thing we want to emphasize more than anything, no, not only are we not about that, we're about the exact opposite. We're about a 180-degree turnabout from that. We're about turning that classroom into as interactive an experience as possible. We're about, if any of the videos, and your son has watched them, I mean, they're all about the intuition. They're all about, don't just apply a formula. If you don't know where that formula came from, you're going to forget it and you're never going to know when to use it. So learn where the formula came from. Learn how to think logically about things. Learn how to take that thinking, not even that formula, that thinking process and apply it into other things. And so everything we're doing is about trying to make the learning experience as rich as possible, and empowering teachers, and then if there is a physical experience, making that as interactive as possible with humans.